I used to self-harm to cope with the abuse and torture for all the reasons that I talked about in Scars. But the cult and my abusers also taught me to self-harm, and every time I remembered that, it felt like a huge betrayal, and then I would forget it again. Because I had thought that my self-harming was my thing, was my way to cope with the overwhelming emotion, to keep myself from killing myself, to repress the memories when I couldn't handle them, and it was. And it was something that the cult taught me and my father taught me. My father was actually the first person to cut deeply into my arm, and to force me to, with his hand over my hand, over the xacto knife, the handle, and telling parts of me that he was training robot parts and other parts, that this is what I was supposed to do. If I started to remember, this is what I was supposed to do, we were supposed to do if we thought about telling. This is what we were supposed to do if we thought about trying to escape. He was the one who made the first real cuts on my arm, beyond I had scraped my wrist. But I was trained to do that in the cult torture from really early on, and I think it's because I resisted. I fought back against the cult. I fought back against hurting other kids or torturing them or murdering them. I couldn't do it. And they had to force me to do it through torture every time, or threatening to murder more kids. And I think it's because of that that they started teaching me to cut myself or to kill myself. So when I was maybe 2 or 3, they would teach me this very specific ways to cut myself on the limbs of dolls or mannequins, where they had drawn red lines, and they showed me where to cut and how to cut, both to self-injure and to unalive myself. And then at age, I think 3 or 4, I was strapped down to the torture chairs, where they had wrapped layers of, I think it was silicone. It was thick, over my arm, and beneath it they had little packets of blood that they had siphoned off either of me earlier or of other kids, where when I would cut through in the way that they taught me, the blood would come out and it would smell real and look real because it was real blood. And they taught those parts of me that they were training to cut myself or to unalive myself, especially the unalive. They taught those parts that they would still be alive if they unalived the body, because they were. And they taught folks inside who were trained to do it to take snapshots, like visual snapshots with our brain, of where we were supposed to cut and how we were supposed to cut, so that we would always know how to do it, and to trigger the programming to actually do it, to self-harm ourselves or to unalive. And so when I see those snapshot images, I know that's programming, and I put it together, and I've worked so many years on this, and now I don't ever forget that my father and the cult taught me to do this. But when I was still self-harming, I would forget because it was coping, because it was so much trauma, and then I would remember again, and it always felt like a betrayal. And it is such a cruel and inhumane thing to do, to teach someone to do that. And it is just one fragment of what the cult did to me in the torture. And it is horrific.